How many of you know what a jacket is? When I was growing up, there was this saying that people used to say, whether it was male or females, but usually the males would say it about a female. You know, she got too many names on her jacket. And what that means is that she slept with too many people. And the same way with a male. You know, a male could be, there's a saying now that the young people say, you know, when a male is sleeping around or he'll give his penis to anybody, they call it community penis. Like anybody could get it, you know. So, I mean, I know this is a Christian platform and things of that nature, but this is real talk. This is conversation as well. One of the things that God showed me that was coming was a lot of our spouses, those of us, and this is not for everybody, this is for those of us who have been waiting, this is for those of us who have changed, this is for those of us who God has decided to take us from loneliness and from being alone to bring us into the place of being with the partner, being in relationship. Now, let me say this. When we choose who it is, because God is not going to throw somebody at you and say, bam, this is who I have for you. We'll always have the choice. And the reason why we will always have the choice is because God never superimposes his will over ours. So there are people who are going to come into your life and the choice is going to be yours. But when you make the choice, make sure you make the choice in agreement with where it is that you were going, because a lot of us, we like to look at our feelings and where we are right now and think that I want to choose this big bad buff, you know, person, or this hourglass figure beauty queen right here right now, but we don't look at the future and the character and whether this person is going to be able to hold me in the spirit and pray for me and be able to do warfare and things of that nature for where it is that I am going or where it is that they are going. You know, we need to let people know and really have conversation what our plan is, whether we are planning to be wealth distributors and kingdom citizens and kingdom finances and things of that nature, and just whatever the call is on your life. You need to be with like kind. You need to be with like-minded people, with those people who know how to cover you, know how to protect you, know how to be a blessing unto you, know how to connect you to the right people. Why are they in your life? Not for you to just be connected for sex, not for you to just be connected because you feel like it's time for you to get married and your biological clock is ticking. You know, there are many of you who you have somebody in your life, but you know in your knower that this person that you have in your life is not the person that you could spend the rest of your life with. You like the way you lay and play with them, you like the way they treat you, you like the good-hearted person that they are, but you know that if warfare comes, and not if, but when warfare comes and you are in a position where you really need them to cover you, they have nothing to cover you with except for the things of this world. You know, there's places where you are going where you need to be matched with, you need to be equally yoked with. Not to say that you have to like the same things and be in the same things and things of that nature, but you do have to be with somebody who knows how to lift you, knows how to go to war for you, know how to get a prayer through, know how to cover you in prayer, know how to, because the two of you are one, pray for you as if they are praying for themselves, not just what the world standards are of the person that you should be with. You know, they gotta have this amount of money and they have to do this and they have to do that, but they'll have all of these things. The enemy will make sure that you get all of these things that you say that they have to have, but they don't have no power, they don't have no anointing, they don't have no fire, they don't have no fear of the Lord, they don't have anything that when the enemy comes up against you, they can't lift up nothing against the enemy because of your choices. So when you choose, you have to choose somebody into where you are going, not where you are right now. You know, but God, what God is doing at this time, you know, he's sending the people that he has for us. It's time, you know, where he is bringing us out of this place of loneliness and aloneness and bringing us into a place of relationship and commitment. But the choice is going to be ours. It'll be more than one person who comes to you, but the choice is yours, because God is not a person who's going to superimpose his will over ours. he's going to give us the choice. And in that choice, there are always going to be good people who we need to pray and talk to God and ask God about, do I deal with this good person or do I deal with this God person, and wait on this person. Even if you're not able to see what God sees in the person, you still pray about the person, because they came into your path for a reason. They may not be your choice. They may not look like the type of person that you usually date, that you usually get into relationship with. Some of us like that rugged, rough guy. We like that hood guy. We like that guy who we know, that guy who we know is going to just, stand up and stand out and just, do all of these things to us because of that rugged and roughness sexually and, in other areas that we are just drawn and attracted to. But sometimes you need somebody who don't look like, that they have the rough and the ruggedness, that they have the little hood in them and things of that nature. Just because they don't look like it, it doesn't mean that they don't have what it is that you need, because God knows what it is that you need. So as you pray and you ask God for discerning of spirits and for confirmation whether this is the right person, then you will make the right choices in who it is and where you're going. You can even pray and ask God to show you the future with this person and what it's going to look like, so that you don't find out down the line that this person has in their culture where a woman can't make more than a man, or a woman has to stop working after she gets married, and things of that nature, things that you didn't know about, things that you didn't conversate about because you put in your bid for the things that you wanted, but you never had conversation about the things that you needed, your dreams and your goals. And the same with a man. Sometimes you'll get women who are pretty right now and who look like they can represent you well, but then whenever you start going to business meetings and things of that nature, they start painting their hair, pink, purple, and green all at the same time, with their nails all different types of colors, and coming in speaking ebonics and things of that nature, when you need somebody to represent you in a certain way, in a classy way. You need somebody to represent you as an Esther, and not somebody who's gonna represent you as a hood rat. And I'm not, saying anything negative about anybody, because if you choose to color your hair and color your nails and do all of that stuff, that is you. You have, that's your prerogative. You have the liberty to do that. But when you are representing a certain type of person, is what I am saying, you must be a partner who's willing to represent that person in the way that they need you to represent them. And this is the whole point of what it is that I'm saying. When you choose your mate, it has to be somebody who's going to represent where you're going, who's going to be able to keep you and cover you and protect you and lift you and be there for you and show up for you the way that you need them to show up, and not somebody that's going to embarrass you, in the long run. There are many of us, being that this is a conversation and not a Bible study, there are many of us, we are caught up in the way that somebody sexes us. I get comments on my TikTok and even on these YouTube videos that I do, where people are attached to somebody that they're with, that they know that they shouldn't be with, but they like the way that they bang their head up against the wall. They like the way that, they sex them, and the way that they manhandle them and take over and things of that nature, that they are soul tied and connected to these people so deeply that they are not willing to give up the person, knowing that the person is not for them, for this act of how they treat them. And then there are some of us who we are still attached to people. How many of you have somebody who can call you right now? You are single, and even if you're married, some of us have these people who, if they call me, nobody has made me feel the way that this person has made me feel. This may be the person who took your virginity. This may be the person who, they just showed you some tricks and exposed you to some new things that gave you ecstasy, gave you euphoria, gave you explosions in your body that you had never felt before and you have not felt since. And if that person contacts you, you are willing to drop everything and drop it all and move into, the situation with this person. Your soul tied to that person. And then there are many of you who you'll say things like, no, I'm not going to risk it all. But there's always an opportunity that the enemy can represent you in a timing when you are at a lowest point, where he can open the door and also present this to you and say, now, what are you going to do with this? It could be your wife or your spouse that is getting on your last nerve, or you're in a separation elevated position and things of that nature, and now you need this experience to relieve some pressure. I'm just speaking in general, not saying that this is going to happen. But with the things that God is bringing, the gift that God is bringing, there is healing that needs to take place in each and every one of us. This is my point. There are many of us who are like Rahab. Before we even knew anything about the value of marriage and waiting until you are married. We didn't have people who spoke into us and told us the power of the intimacy between a virgin man and a virgin woman coming together, and God becoming the threefold cord that binds and twines them together. We didn't hear anything about the value of why we should wait until we get married to make covenant. And in this covenant, it brings a bond that is usually unbreakable. So because we weren't exposed to that, many of us were exposed to the culture, to the day, to the times that we were in. Oh, you young, you got a nice shape, you need to sow your oats. And we had people in our family who told us that, while you're young, get all the experience that you can while you're young, because when you get older and you get married, you're going to be with that one person for the rest of your life. So you might as well enjoy, your freedom and do what you want to do with who you want to, how you want to, whenever you want to, because you were free. There were some of you who, your parents or friends or neighbors or people around you, they encouraged you to not only date one person, but to date several people. And in this dating several people, you get what you want from these people while you're dating them, and then you give them what it is that they want. And what it is that they want isn't really costing you anything, but it's costing them to give to you what you deserve, because you are the one who is in the relationship, or you are the prize, or you are the valuable one. So now you have multiple relationships that you are getting things from multiple people, but you're also giving your body to these multiple people. And even speaking of the multiple people, there are many of us who are married to 20, 30, 40, 50 different people, even some of us hundreds of partners, because we don't understand what marriage is. Many people think that marriage is when you walk down an aisle and when you say I do, when you're dressed in all white. But according to the Bible, marriage is when you consummate, when you have coitus with a person. You are married to that person, but nobody tells us this. They tell us to enjoy life and do your thing and sow your oats and things of that nature. But while you're sowing your oak, you're also sowing soul ties. So what I'm saying is that, being that God is bringing us to this place where he is taking us out of loneliness and bringing us into relationship and into bond and into commitment and giving us another chance at marriage. Some of us, we've been married before. Like when we look at what is her name, Boaz's wife, Ruth. When we look at Ruth had a husband. Her husband passed away, but she ended up getting married again. She had to do what she needed to do, be in position and be in place and play her part. And she even had to advance the connection, the chemistry that she felt by approaching Boaz in a way to make covenant, to let him know that she was available, instead of being standoffish and things of that nature, which I don't want to go off into a tangent about Ruth's position of how she put herself in position for this mate, and for her mate. But I'm not saying that women should approach a man. That is not what I'm saying, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't. But what I am saying is that now that God is bringing these people, some of us have been married before, some of us have never been married, and with that not being married and sowing our oats, we still have soul ties. Ruth still had soul ties to her husband, but her husband was no longer here, so she could move on into the next relationship and be healed by the kingsman redeemer who redeemed her and who didn't look at the past of everything that she had. But with many of us, the reason why we can't get the kingdom spouse and we can't step into the relationship that God has for us, because we won't allow God to cleanse us. We won't go through any type of deliverance. Many of us, we've been praying and crying and being faithful and things of that nature, but this is the last step before God takes you into the relationship that he is opening up the door for you to step into. One of the things that God dealt with me was, he said to me, I want you to remember all of the people that you slept with, and I had to get a list, and I was really shocked by the list. I wasn't in my 30s, but I was in the 20s, of people that I had to go back and come out of agreement with, break soul ties with. So what's my point? My point is that there are many of you who are still married to people. And you may say, I've never married these people, because you didn't walk down the aisle. But in the eyes of God, you're still holding on to soul ties. You are still holding on to things that keep you connected with this person. You are so cluttered with men and women in your life that you don't have the capacity. You don't have space or room for the type of woman or the type of man that God is bringing in your life, because they're going to need to take up a lot of space. God and this person is going to take up a lot of space in your life, and you don't have the space for them, because your house, your body, your spirit, your soul is cluttered with all of these people that you still are attached to. So what do you need to do? Come out of agreement with these people. You come out of agreement with these people by praying and asking God to forgive you, first of all, for all the fornication and the ignorance of not knowing that we should save ourselves and wait until God sends who it is that he has, and give us the choice for the right mate. Many of us have made, a lot of bad choices, but God is such a merciful, good, loving, caring, kind, forgiving God that he is willing to wipe the slate clean. So when we go to God and we ask God to forgive us, God forgives us. But we need to also write a list of all of the partners that we can remember. Write their names down, even if it got to take you a couple of days. Every partner. Think back from the time you're broken out of your virginity, to the time of your teen years, your young adult years. Every time that you can, even one night stands that you could vaguely remember, even if you can't remember their name, write the experience, where it was, where the bar was, the club was, the hotel was, or whatever it is that you remember, and put that experience down. And then you're going to come out of agreement with these people. You're going to take back the part of your soul that they are holding on to, but you are also going to release out of you the part of their soul that you were still holding on to, and give it back to them with no strings attached. You're going to free yourself, liberate yourself, come out of agreement with these partners. And then you're going to pray. And you're going to ask God, as you renounce, as you go back and you say, in this experience, you did it out of ignorance, or you did not know, but you come out of agreement with it. And I give you back the part of you that I was holding on to. And I take back from you the part of you that I was holding on to, every soul tie. When you come out of agreement with that, then you ask God to forgive you, and you ask the Holy Spirit to fill that space, to occupy that place until he brings the partner, until you come into agreement with the partner that you will spend the rest of your life with in holy matrimony. Let God be your husband or your wife until you come into covenant with the new person that you were coming into agreement with. There are a lot of us who we have been tricksters and, ghosted people and really broken people's heart and just used women and manipulated women and things of that nature. The reason why you have not been able to get your help beat is because you have tricked people, and now Laban is about to trick you, Jacob, or has been tricking you. You had to work 7 years. You've been laboring. You've been saying, I'm ready. I'm a good guy. I'm a good dude. I changed. I've done all of these things, but you never came out of agreement with all of the lies and all of the trickery and all of the manipulation and all of the people that you have hurt. You still have people tears on a pillow. You still have people's feelings, in you that you don't even recognize that is in you. And you have people that you have caused to be in their feelings, in their heart, to be broken because of the act of trickery of the things that you have done. And in this act of trickery and the hurt and the harm that you have caused to other people, now you need to come out of agreement and ask God to forgive you for the people that you have hurt, male or female, the people that you have tricked and made them think that you loved them because you wanted, a Gucci bag, or because you wanted something from them, or because they looked like they had something. He was too nice of a guy. He's not the type of guy that I like. She's the type of girl, she got a nice body, I just wanted to bang that, and things of that nature. You got to come out of agreement with that. The people who you used, who you knew that you didn't have any type of connection or commitment with, and you knew that you did not want that person, but you used them because of the car, because of their money, because of the color of their skin, because of the things that you wanted from them. You wanted to reap the benefits from, but you hurt them and you broke them and you used them and you left them in a painful state with many tears on their pillow. And now you need to go to God and ask God to forgive you for that. You need to clean the slate of that and ask God to forgive you for each and every person that you broke their heart and you left them in a state of, wondering where you were and why you ghosted them and what's wrong with them and things of that nature, male or female. Many of us, God says that there are many of us who we think that we could just come to him and just get everything that we want. Like he's a genie in a bottle, and we rub the magic lamp and we say the right words and we put money in the offering and we, be faithful and consistent in coming to church, but we don't clean out anything. When was the last time you've been through deliverance? We want these good things from God, and God wants to give us all of these good things, but we can't receive these good things when we are cluttered, when our house is still haunted, when there are still things that are full and filling us to the capacity. And this is just in relationships. Like, really think about all of the things that God has in store, all of the things that we're praying for. Many of us are praying for gifts. Many of us are praying to walk in our purpose and our calling, but we have so much blood on our hands. We must remember David. David wanted to build God a house, but God would not allow David to build him a house because he had too much blood on his hand. And then his son Solomon comes in, and Solomon is able to build the house. But then what happens to Solomon? He gets caught up in all of this adultery, and I mean, he could have as many wives as he could take care of, so I guess it wasn't called adultery, but he got caught up in with all of these witches and warlocks and sorcerers and marrying these people that are outside of covenant and things of that nature, because he was who he was and did what he wanted to do instead of following the plan and will of God. So what am I saying? There are many of us, we come to church and we want all these things for God and we surrender and give our lives to God, but we come in with all of this idolatry and all of the people that we have laid up that have entered spirits and bought different presences and different types of gods and things of that nature that we laid up and played up with. When we deal with all of these people and have all of these one night stands and get into these temporary relationships with all of these different partners, we take on their spirits. And as we take on these spirits, when you lay down with a witch, you're gonna get up with a demon. You lay down with a warlock, you're gonna get up with a whole tribe of demons. So you haven't cleansed yourself. You haven't been cleansed. You haven't been washed in the blood, of Jesus, and asking and going for deliverance. And then we wonder why we can't get the things that we want. The same is with relationship. God said to me that, you've been praying for a kingdom spouse, and I keep telling you that I'm going to give you the kingdom spouse, but this was the last phase right here of what I needed you to do. I needed you to go back. I needed you to write a list. I needed you to come out of agreement. I needed you to unmarry, to tear up the marriage certificate in the spirit with all of these partners, all of these husbands that you have had, that you have made relationship without me. Many times I knew better. Like I said, I don't know whether it was in this video or another, but I was in church, watching and seeing, and I knew God was going to use me to address sex in the church, because I would see things. First of all, when I was a young adult, just coming back to the church, I was in a whole relationship, singing on the choir, coming to church faithfully, but I was in a relationship with this gentleman who I had living with me, and being prophetic, he was picking up and able to see in the spirit and able to dream, and all of these things that he had never done before, and God allowed me to see that. You see, this is how this impartation, your spirit is mixing with his spirit, and his spirit is mixing with what is in you. And he was able to see in dreams some things that he never, remembered any of his dreams, and he was never able to see the things that he was able to see the way that he did. And once we got out of relationship, after some time passed, he lost the gift. He wasn't able to see the way that he was seeing when he was with me. But early on, when I was growing up, I used to see the teenagers, in the back of the church who couldn't see each other outside of their relationship in the church, but they were doing things, having sex, but not the penetration. They were using oral, they were using hand, they were gyrating and doing things that they were doing in the back of the church, because their parents were saved, their grandmother was saved, they had to be in church 3-4 times a week and things of that nature. So they had to get in and see each other wherever they could see each other, even if it was in the house of God. But they still was doing what it was that they were doing in the back of the church. And I was able to see these things and be pinpointed in these things. And of course, I didn't tell, because we have a saying that was snitches get stitches. So people didn't tell on things that they saw if it wasn't hurting anybody else. And it wasn't until I grew in maturity that God reminded me that this is why I allowed you to see some of the things that you have seen. And then there are some of you who you've never had a penetration sex a day of your life. So you're still technically a virgin. But you've been using your mouth. You've been using your hands. You've been using your feet. You've been using things as a point of contact to give somebody else a release. And you think that because it's not what the Bible calls sex, that it's not sex. But we're in a new day and a new time. So sex is anything that causes somebody to release and to do what a husband and a wife should come together and bring that release about. Even when it comes to masturbation. This is a conversation, so we're going to real talk. This is not a Bible study. If you're looking for a Bible study, you could go find one, even though I'm using people in the Bible. But it's a scripture in the Bible where a man ejaculated, and he didn't want to marry his brother's wife. He ended up marrying his brother's wife, but he would have sex with her, but he wouldn't allow the seed to go in her. He would pull out and allow the seed to go on the ground. And it was a waste of seed. This is the same thing when we masturbate. You are wasting what God bought to bring reproduction, to bring pleasure to a husband and a wife. Many people have many questions about sex. Is this legal? Is that legal? Can I do this? Can I do that? But when you are married, you and your husband make the agreement of what it is that you are going to do. And it's nobody else's business, and you shouldn't be sharing what it is that you do with your spouse with anybody else. But when you're not married and you want to know all of these things, can you do this and can you do that? First of all, can you find one person and be committed to that person and be married to that person? And like I said, marriage is not about the white gown and the black tux and the going down and all of the people witnessing, but it is an act that people show that I am committed to this person. So I'm not saying that if you were with somebody and you've been with somebody 20, 30 years, people will say, oh, you shacking, but you've been with this same person. And when we really look at the Bible, instead of look at legalism and doctrine, you are really married to this person if this is the only person that you have been with, but you are not, you have not done a ceremony. You have not presented before the people that this is who you're married to. Whether they agree with marriage, because you have some people who talk about they've been together 15 years. Oh, I don't believe in marriage, but you're still with the one person. Both of you are faithful to the one person. You have a whole life you built, a whole relationship you built together, but you don't believe in marriage. But in the eyes of God, you're married. So it's not about the act of the ceremony. But the act of the ceremony is important to those who need to see that you are committed in the act of ceremony. And I'm sorry, I'm just conversating and just tapping into different things. But the point is, your spouse is coming. But are you ready for your spouse? Do you have your house cleaned out? And I mean your soul. Do you have your soul cleansed out where there is room for your spouse and God, so that the threefold cord is not easily broken? If you got a packed house and you can't fit another person in that house, you definitely can't fit God in that house, because God is immeasurable. God is so big and wants to be so big in you. But when you got a cluttered house, you got all of these bodies living in you, because you're still soul tied to people. You're still carrying people's spirits and people's demons and people's feelings of the emotion and the intimacy, the erotic behavior that the two of you bring together and make happen. And those of us who are prophetic, we definitely have to cleanse ourselves and get rid of and really come out of agreement and be set free from, because not only do we feel deeply, but we're able to see and see the act of. And I know this is a long video, but I just want to share something with you to give an example of what it is that I'm saying. In my sin days, when, I was in my young adult days, I went to the hotel with this gentleman, and it was a trick, because he was trying to trick me to fall in love with him, even though we were both sinning, and it wasn't that deep or that serious for me. But he took me to this hotel that had mirrors all over the hotel, and when I walked in, I was just like naive to what was going on. I was blinded to what was going on, even though I'm prophetic and able to see what's going on before it happens. But when you're tainted, when you have dust, when you have dirt, when you have sin on you, you can see some things, but you don't always see what you need to see as clear, because your emotions are caught up and involved. And I just wanted to, get together and have fun. But we went into this hotel and there were mirrors all over the place. And as we began to engage in the act of coitus, sex, we, he kept the lights on and put the music on, and, we were able to see. But I happened to look up. And when I tell you, the devil put a grip on me, because I looked up and I saw this gentleman and the motion and how he was in me and how he was maneuvering and moving and how our bodies were entwined and things of that nature. And I had this visual that just kept playing in my head, even as I was seeing during the act, like I was feeling and seeing the body movement and everything that was going on. So it was just like I was there in the room, but I was also in the act of what was going on and able to see all of this stuff. And it was an imprint that stayed in me and that stayed with me and gave me such a soul tie to this guy that I would think about that very act and how he had presented and brought this experience of something that I have never seen before, using my gifts against me to imprint this image in me that I would never forget about. And it took me years to get rid of this guy. And one of the first names when God said to me that I needed to write down the names was his name, because the magic, the witchcraft, whatever it was that he did to me that day, that thing stayed with me and vexed me and made me feel like nobody else could make me feel or put that type of image and give me the euphoria of that experience the way that he did. So that name had to go on one of the first names that I had to come out of agreement with that spirit. Give him back his soul and snatch my soul back. Take my soul back from that experience. So your blessing is coming real soon, like within this month and next month. You're going to be introduced. There are people who are coming, people who are showing up. The choice is yours, in who you choose. But make sure when you choose wisely. You don't choose just for right now. You choose for where you're going. You choose and you ask God and you pray about it. Even if you don't know where it is that you're going, you pray before you make a choice, because God knows the plans that he has for you. And if you pray the right kind of prayer and say, God, if this is not who you have for me, I can't see my way right now. God, I really don't know you the way that, and don't know the purpose and the plan that you have for me right now. But God, if you will protect me in my choices and allow me to make the choice according to where it is that you are taking me and what it is that I need to be excellent in the things that you are calling me to represent where you are taking me, things that are not going to hinder and hold me back, things that are not going to interrupt my relationship with you, God, things that are not going to make what it is that you are putting in my hands to do, make it look bad and represent it bad by being locked up and getting all of these names and being in newspaper and everything reflects me because of my choices. God, I need you to protect me when I can't protect myself, protect my future, protect where you are taking me, So when you don't know what to pray, this is how you pray. But you also ask God, not only for the clarity and who it is, but to show you anything that you need to see that you can't see. Bloodline cultural, when you sit down and you talk to this joker or you talk to this jokerette or whatever you want to call her, you ask questions. If they're offended by your questions, then they're not the person that you need to be with. Because nowadays in this world that we live in, you got to know what gender a person was born in, because somebody could look like they can have all the fluff and all that stuff but not be who they were born in being. And you being a child of God, you want to make the choice according to God's principles and God's plans of what God's will is for you, and not what somebody deceives and tricks you into and then wait until you fall in love with them because you have been with them and things of that nature, and you love things about them that now you are so tied to them, and in your emotions and your feelings that you are willing to overlook some stuff, whereas if it was exposed to you in the beginning, you would not have come into agreement with, you would not have allowed yourself to entertain. So you need to ask God for discerning of spirits to show you what is the spirit, what is the true gender of this person, and have conversation. And when God tells you something, don't you ever call God a liar. Take God at his word, because people will tell you no, and then later on you'll find out that it was a yes, because God said that it was a yes in the beginning, And not only in your choices, but whenever God sends the person that God has for you, you also have to look at you and see where you are. And see if you need to go through deliverances. See what's broken in you. Ask God to work on you and to deal with you Because when God sends the person that he has for you, you don't want what happened in the last marriage to happen in this marriage. You don't want to bring the things from the past, the things that you haven't gotten over, the fears and the traumas, and pushing men away, and you knowing that he likes things this way, and you like things that way, and you want to do your own thing, but you committed to this marriage, and now you're doing things your way because it's your way or the highway. You gotta look at yourself and not see yourself as being selfish, because when the blessing comes, God will give you the blessing and you'll end up losing the blessing because you weren't willing to deal with the things that you needed to deal with in the process of while you're dating or before this person comes, getting yourself together, looking at you instead of always looking outside at others. And for some reason, God is pressing this on my heart. Let me also say this in reference to weight gain. There are many people who lose their spouses because they get in marriages and they lose themselves. Now, there are people who make promises of, when the way I am now, if this is what you're attracted to, then I'm going to work on keeping myself to the best of my ability to represent myself in this way, male and female. Then you end up losing your partner because you have a partner who looks this way, but you look and you've lost control and don't care and not trying to fix the things that drew your partner to you in the beginning. And a lot of you say, oh, I had kids and the kids caused me to gain weight and things of that nature. You just make sure you represent yourself as the well-dressed or, whatever it was that attracted him. Because if your husband is with you and he loves you, he's going to understand that you have done, or your metabolism is not made the way. And the same way with a man, you get bare belly and all of these things that don't want to work out. And then you got this nice, sweet fatigue little young lady who wants somebody to represent her and to be in relationship with. And this is what she is attracted to, and this is what she wants, but you don't want to keep yourself up and expect for her to stay committed to you. And I don't know why that popped up, but it must be something that God wanted me to talk about, because there are a lot of people who look at people's physical makeup and their change and the things that changes about them, and they're not willing to accept it because they have this picture of what it is that they want and how they want to be represented, and it's in their right, especially when you have the conversation about this is what I want and what I want the both of us to commit to. Like, let's use this as an example. It just popped in my head. If you have somebody who's a weight trainer, somebody who is taking care of themselves and eating good and doing things of that nature, and then you get with this person just to, you marry them, but you marry them and you do all of these things to get them. But once you get them, you don't do the same things to keep them. And then whenever they're a reflection in the limelight where the two of you have to come out together, you're looking like Slobby Robbie, or you're looking like, this overweight woman who don't care about herself, but you already knew what it was that your husband wanted or your wife wanted you to represent and to look like. And it is in your power to be able to make the changes. It is in your power not to be manipulative and be deceptive, and where you did what you needed to do to get them, but you're not doing what you need to do to keep them. Because no matter whether God sends the spouse or not, you still have a say in what it is that you want. You still have a say in how you want to be represented and what you want to represent you in this marriage. So I say all of that to say your blessing is coming, but are you prepared? Are you ready? Get divorced. Some of them, not some, all of them partners. Get rid of them soul ties. Come out of agreement with them soul ties. See yourself with a supersized pair of scissors, cutting the ribbon, cutting the cord, cutting the thread, cutting whatever it is that binds the two of you together. As you come out of agreement with it, you take your soul back from that person and give them their soul back and tell them to hit the road, Jack, because God has something better for you, and you are going to be ready, and you are prepared, and you're working on you, and you're praying and talking to God and asking God to help you to get prepared, take you through deliverance, take you through whatever sessions you need to go through to get cleansed, to get ready, to get prepared for the kingdom spouse that God has for you. Thank you for listening to the conversation about your soul mate that is on the way. Are you ready? Are you still married to 200 people? Time to get divorced. This is Let's Talk Kingdom. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a blessed and prosperous day. Your blessing is on the way.